That was great, and my biggest question about this session was, is it Gillian or Gillian? And it is Gillian. So welcome, Gillian.
Thank you.
So I think the way to start this conversation is to place Booking.com in the travel universe. Can you help us do that, please?
I can. So Booking.com is a company that really has always focused on making sure finding and booking an accommodation is as good as possible. So we always felt that the accommodation is the most crucial part of the trip, right? It can really make or break your trip. So Booking was very focused on doing this really well, and we still are today. We're the biggest travel company in the world at this moment with this focus on accommodations. We are a company that operates out of Amsterdam, so we're really a European business. With the mother company in the US, we're listed on the stock market in the United States.
So Booking.com is part, how many of you use Booking.com? Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so Booking.com is a piece, the by far largest piece, well over half of Booking Holdings. Booking Holdings owns Booking.com, Priceline, Kayak. The only company actually I wasn't familiar with is Agoda, rentalcars.com, and OpenTable. How can we live without many of these companies? Booking.com has been by far the biggest driver in making Booking Holdings, which changed its name from Priceline, making that company now a company with a stock market value of over $100 billion. Booking.com has been by far the biggest driver. Gillian has over 15,000 employees working in your organization, is that right?
17,000.
17,000?
Yeah.
In 70 countries. And Gillian, you started out in 2002. What were you doing in 2002 when you decided to join this tiny startup in Amsterdam?
Yeah, so I have a background in the hospitality industry, and very early on I realized how complicated it is to bring customers to properties all over the world. I don't know if you remember at that time, but you had brochures with pictures this big where you had to select your accommodation, and often what you expected versus the reality was completely different. So when the internet came, I got really fascinated about what the internet could actually bring in improving finding and booking an accommodation. And Gert-Jan Bruinsma was the founder of Bookings.nl at that time. He was making money at the company where I was working. So I've seen already this company starting from the plan to the first part, which was a few students basically trying to start up this business. And then when they started to form a team in 2002 to really start growing the business and put a bit of money into this company, I thought, okay, I'm going to try. So I moved, which many people, especially my family, thought was a weird step.
How many people were there at the time?
Well, I was employee number 7. There were a bit more people, but most of them were students actually at that time. So I think we were in total with around 20 people when I started, yeah.
So now 17,000 people, and you became COO in 2011 and CEO in 2016. Yeah. So you go to work every day thinking about disruption. How to disrupt and how not to be disrupted. So a few years ago, a company called Airbnb comes into your space. What did you think then? Yeah, what did you think? What did you tell the troops about as you saw Airbnb coming on the scene?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. I think disruption, no matter at what phase of your business, should play a role, right? Because even today, you need to make sure that you're not being disrupted. And for Booking, we've always been an extremely customer-focused company, right? Even when we started, of course, when only people were booking via desktops, but when mobile came, it was for us also a test to see, okay, can we now also become leading in mobile, which we've managed to go through that transition as well. And if you follow customer data and the same what you see with Airbnb, you start to learn that customers select a hotel, but they sometimes also want to book an apartment or a holiday home. So we naturally already transformed into multiple segments. We have 30 categories on Booking today that customers can book. But of course, Airbnb grew out of the United States, and we grew mostly out of Europe in the first place. So in the United States, we have some catching up to do. And, but for sure, it's a very important segment. And we approach it a bit differently.
So this segment is what, non-hotel?
Non-hotel. So
short stay bookings?
Correct.
Is that the...
Yeah, we call it homes, apartments, and any unique place to stay. We currently have 5 million of those listings on Booking.com already. So it's a segment which is growing fast. Booking really approaches it from the breadth of selection.
And how many does Airbnb have?
They have, I think, close to 5 million, 4.8 or something. Okay. Don't pin me down on these numbers.
It was in the press in April, I believe, that Booking.com was, and these were independent surveys. I believe that you were ahead, but seriously, at the moment, you know, you said at the moment we are the biggest travel company. I mean, it's sort of a day by day, go into work each day and fight it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a lot of competition in this space, right? Even Booking.com in the digital world is already a big player. Many people still book their travel offline, right? Still, Booking has a single share in the world, and we're already doing a lot, but there's still many companies out there providing these type of services to customers.
So what's been the biggest lesson in sort of smart disruption? What have you done where you took course A instead of course B, and that proved to be a great response or a great move in a disruptive environment?
Yeah, I think Booking.com has proven already from the start that we were very disruptive. Because if you think about how we basically brought the segment online, right, at that time.
And this is which segment?
Well, the accommodations, right?
Oh, I see.
So that's already in the start, we were disrupting the industry as such, as to how you can basically find and book an accommodation. I think what we've learned is a few things are very important. First thing I would always say is culture. Because eventually you need to have a culture where people really are willing to come up with ideas and to make sure that you understand how to keep improving your products for customers. Because disruption happens because there's a need for customers, right? Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Customers really want to do something differently, and you provide disruption by eventually providing that to customers. So I think that's something that is crucial, that you have a culture where people are willing to come up with these ideas. They're allowed to make mistakes as well, because often the first idea might not get it, but you need to start learning with customers what does. But that, I would say, is number one. Secondly, indeed, it's data, right? To make sure that you follow as well that what you're doing is actually providing this success for customers as well. And thirdly, it's about, in Booking, it's been about scale. You always need to make sure that you understand if a product works, but then how can I make it work for more customers, right? How do I make sure it's scalable? But these, I would say, are the 3 most important parts.
Who has a question? Wait for the mic, and please stand and identify yourself.
Hello, Hanna Milanov, Professor of Entrepreneurship at the TUM School of Management. As a Professor of Entrepreneurship, we talk a lot about how to stay ahead of the competition. In the spirit of diversity, I think one of the interesting things we find is that boys typically talk about fighting competition, and ladies typically talk about crafting and delivering new value propositions for the customer. So sort of 2 different logics of thought, if you want. So maybe along those lines, I'm curious, how do you keep your company entrepreneurial? So I think Mark Zuckerberg said there's, I don't know, dozens or hundreds of versions of Facebook coexisting at the same time to keep sort of this dynamics going on. Are there any direct steps that you take in doing so? Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what you see at Booking is that we try to lay decisions as low as possible in the organization, because if you do that, you can make so many decisions every day. So every day you're building innovation. And if every decision needs to go up to my level, then we're not going to make a lot of decisions every day. And I think that has proven to be extremely successful, right? So we operate with a lot of independent teams, small teams that every day innovate on our products. So, and I think if people are allowed to come up with these ideas, try, learn, but also fail, and that's part of your culture, then you're actually doing a lot of innovation. We do over 1,000 experiments every day on consumers. So 1,000 A/B experiments every day, that's how fast we innovate. And I think for the part of women, it's extremely important, right? Because women bring a lot of innovation, collaboration, like you said, right? And also creativity. And it's very important, I think, also for the future, if you think about how technology is going to play such a bigger role, right, in our future, that women are more part of that, of those decisions and those innovations as such.
Yes, back there. Wait for the mic, please.
Robin Bowles, In Kind Direct. You say you push innovation down and you're making thousands of decisions every day. How do you communicate that so that you can benefit around the organization? How do you do that without overloading everybody?
Yeah. So, basically there's of course a tool where this is all visible, right, and also the results, but they basically follow data in making these decisions. So it's not a matter that they need to share it with everybody as such. If people need to know, then of course they can look it up in a system where this is all visible. I think it's very important that you can move fast, right? And I think what is quite interesting is that whenever something fails, they do share with a larger community to share learnings. And that's what I like a lot. Whenever there's even something happening with the system, and then they really say, okay, this is what happened, this is why, and this is what I did about it. And that you see overall is being shared a lot. But it's not that proactively before we put something live, we need to share that with the broader organization. Of course, when it influences our partners, for instance, then of course we do share it with our partners that we have on Booking. But it's not that employees overall need to share what they're doing.
So Gillian, what about AI and machine learning? How is that most significantly, how are they most significantly impacting the travel industry right now? And where are we now versus what we may see in 5 years?
Yeah, so if you think about Booking.com as already from the start being an extremely data-driven company, the step to machine learning is a step that you take very early on because of this data approach. So you see today, any customer will touch machine learning somewhere in the funnel. So that with Booking is already something that plays a huge role. If you think about AI, then it's still a lot of learning. I know there's a lot of talking about it, and I think for travel, it has an enormous potential. If you think about the complexity of travel, right? I think if you order a book on Amazon, it's much more straightforward than selecting the right property in Paris, for instance, with all of the choices that customers have, or even thinking about where you're going on holiday. Today, people still spend so much time planning, often even longer than the holiday itself. So, and some of that is nice planning, but some of that is really friction in trying to make it all work. So I think AI really has the opportunity to give better choices for customers and make it much more personalized. And in travel, I think there's true value in that. Today in Booking, you see AI, we use that in basically the service we deliver to customers. So we have a bot running, which basically if you have a question and you've booked an accommodation, then basically we have a bot making sure you get faster answers. And this is already live for English customers. We offer 43 languages on Booking, but that's still pretty complex.
And how much of your customer service is provided by that chatbot?
Well, today 30% of customers really are using that bot. So you see that that is actually improving pretty fast. And so in the future, I think within the next 3 years, I expect also customers will, half of customers will probably touch AI somewhere in the funnel.
So many CEOs are also very worried about AI and the risks that come with AI. What are the dangers of AI in your industry? What are you worried about when you see AI coming on so strong?
Yeah, so, and that's the question, right? I think, like I said, travel is pretty complex. So I think in that sense, AI at this moment can add value. I even see that within our customer service centers that they truly think that AI can make their jobs easier, right? Than it is today. So I think there's many advantages to AI. I also think that before there's a time where AI can take over most of the jobs at Booking, for instance, I think that's still far away, and it's still a lot of learning today. Eventually, of course, AI could have an influence on these type of jobs, but I think that will take time.
So the future of the travel agents industry, you're expanding in different spaces. You bought a company called Fair Harbor Holdings recently. It's software for tour operators. Where do you see the growth, and what will that mean for the future of Booking.com?
Yeah, so you see Booking.com is expanding in more categories than accommodations. Also because today we see customers really need help once they basically arrive in the destination. How am I going to get from the airport to my property? What am I going to do once I arrive, right, in a destination? Fair Harbor is an interesting acquisition for us because we've realized that many of the tour and activities that people would like to do are not online yet. So we feel that by investing in Fair Harbor, we can have a bigger impact in bringing this segment online and therefore visible to customers to see what's out there to book. But you see Booking expanding more and more into these type of segments and in a very customer and data-driven approach. But
what's the most interesting what's the most surprising travel trend now in terms of demographics and where people are going?
Yeah, so I think where people are going, well, you overall see, of course, that people travel longer distances, right? So that's something that I think, if I look at myself when I was young, and where I basically went on holiday and where I go now myself, it's already a big difference. You see the world in that sense became smaller, right? And people make longer distances. I think mobile is a massive change. You see customers have much more trust in technology and they use their mobile device even when they go on holiday, and they trust that technology will actually help them for a place to stay and they don't always need to book it in advance. So you see that is growing very fast, and also you see that you can make it much more personalized because customers nowadays, they expect that you know who they are, what they like and where they would like to travel, and that delivers of course much more opportunities in providing the most perfect trip for customers.
Thank you, Gillian Tans.
Thank you.
We appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.